Welcome to our session on mobility and wirelessness and making it all happen as a telecommunications provider, a supplier to such companies, a researcher, a user. To discuss, we welcome Adnan, Dayya, Ziad Ali, Fadi Antaki, Yasin Hamid, Kunal Hinduja, and Ray Milhem. Adnan Dayya is the executive director of the the Qatar University Wireless Innovation Center, using wireless technology to create new solutions for the diverse needs of Qatar and the Gulf region. And who better for this job than Adnan Dayya, 10 years, a senior manager in product innovation with AT&T Wireless in Seattle in the US. Ziad Ali, serial entrepreneur and investor, ex-senior executive with Vodafone Egypt, currently chairman and CEO of ALZWAD for Economic Development, which owns the advertising-funded information and entertainment service called MENAICT, which I guess means mobile entertainment or Middle East or just me. That's really cool. You can get it from Mobil and Rotana and others in Egypt. Fadi Antaki is the CEO of Arpu Plus, subsidiary of Egypt's Orascom Telecom, providers of mobile banking, mobile TV, ringtones, games, graphics, promos, sells them to mobile providers in Egypt, Italy, Greece, Jordan, Palestine, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, the UAE, Algeria, Tunisia, Morocco, Sudan, Pakistan, Bangladesh. How can you be sitting here? Aren't you too busy? It's called Mobizone on your phone. You've probably seen it. Yasin Hamid is the head of alliances for Europe at the Symbian Foundation, open source creators of the software found most frequently in Nokia phones. He actually lives in Finland. Kunal Hinduja is the co-founder and president of ARQ. You want your own mobile phone company? Just call Kunal, turnkey delivery, plans and builds your whole network. This is a big company. He's in Kuwait, Delhi, and Costa Mesa, California, building across the Middle East and India, the US, and South America. Welcome, Kunal. And Ray Milhem, Chief Technology Officer of Dubai's Silicon Oasis Technology, Dubai's Silicon Oasis Authority. He's also a venture partner at Arabized Ventures, early stage funding of technology innovation in the Arab world. And Ray, a longtime Vice President and General Manager of Motorola Software Group based in Chicago. A heavy hitter from Jordan, now in Dubai. Okay, I want to start at the beginning with construction. Kunal Hinduja. And, his job is to stay in touch with what wireless carriers need. And some of them are coming back to Kunal and saying, my customers are upset. They don't like something about my wireless service. How many people here really love their wireless provider, right? Problems. Things go wrong. And sometimes it's because of the way the network is built. And this has implications for all of us who are going to write software for these networks. Kunal, tell us the situation that is obtaining at the moment in the Middle East regarding the technological characteristics of these networks.
Okay. Well, largely, we've noticed a lot of carriers in the emerging market regions, sorry, not carriers, a lot of end users want to use mobile apps. They want to, use the high bandwidth networks. And many times they expect the performance of the mobile app to be on par with what people are experiencing maybe in other countries or in other areas of the region that have, more high performance networks. Obviously, the reason behind that would be that the carriers' networks are not up to par, or optimization isn't done properly. And I think that's been a large struggle with a lot of the users, and they're not satisfied with the service and whatever the reasons might be. And the struggle on the carrier side is saying, well, their goal is Arpu, our average revenue per user. But I think largely if they evaluated what the user is using, what they want, what's more in demand with, could then really evaluate what they need to put into the network and give that end user the experience they want, they desire, and would probably pay for. So.
Yeah, now, Kunal, you told me that a lot of wireless system operators are not doing the level of certification and verification on their own network that we find in other parts of the world. Could you talk about that and why is this occurring?
Right. I mean, I don't want to make the comparison all the time, but it's in the U.S. and Europe, a lot of the handset manufacturers send out the phones prior to being released to the market to get certified and validated. And that ensures that all the software bugs are fixed. And many times what the user might be experiencing is sometimes it's not the carrier, it's not the wireless operator or the network, it's an issue with the device, it's an issue with the software in the phone. So there's usually a lab and a field testing phase that every phone goes into prior to being released to the market. And I think, if we had some of that in some of these regions, you could reduce some of these issues that are going on.
Now this has implications for everything that we try to push through these phones. Mm-hmm. So I know a lot of the folks sitting here on this panel, 2, 3 are already nodding their heads. How are you, what are you finding that you have to cope with in this area, Ziad, in order to put through material that people want on a network that hasn't been certified, hasn't been optimized, it's 2G, but that's all we've got. I mean, how do you cope with that as a developer?
Actually, the way I look at it is slightly different, because what we're trying to do is more than just develop applications. We're in the business of creating a new business model that bridges several gaps between the different stakeholders in the industry. There was a lot of talks around trends and business models, and maybe Mohammed from Malaz yesterday was talking about how operators sometimes are in the way of between talent and the customer, solutions and benefits to the people in general and to the users of mobile. We're obsessed with application, we're obsessed with content, and the way we handle the device issue is basically working very close to the handset provider, so the Symbians of this world, the Apples of this world, and the Androids, to make sure our handset, our applications and content is compatible with these different handsets and different specifications for each. But at the end of the day, we do not really care much about what operators do with certification and all this, because we have our platform, Mi Al Mobile, which is simply an on-device program, is available for anyone to download, whether through the net or through the operator. Our first implementation in Egypt was through Mobinil, which was willing to subsidize usage for the customers significantly, maybe 70% subsidy, and spend on our marketing. So we decided to launch with Mobinil. But then any user anywhere in the Middle East can just download the application, and for everybody free, has to worry, for free, of course, but I mean, everybody has to worry about his part of the...
That's a very cool strategy you have. I want to get into that a little later. Let's stick with this technological issue. Ray, talk about this. Is this the kind of thing that you're hoping to see your technologists work on at the Silicon Oasis? And of course, you've been vice president for software at Motorola. Surely this is an issue you have to deal with on a global basis. Talk about it.
Sure. Thank you. Definitely, we're always looking at mobile applications as a critical part of our strategy. We call it 6x6 strategy. And mobile apps are critical because we're looking at always finding the right mobile apps, developers in the region, also sometimes in Europe and North America. But as the gentleman was talking about, the applications itself, first of all, if they're relevant to the region, let's say whether it's Arabic, Islamic, then it probably has better chance to sell. But then on the technical side, definitely there's both sides. From the operator side, they want to make sure that the software quality and the scalability and security is addressed. From the user side, they want to get more applications. From the developer side, they want to develop a lot of applications that could suit the market, the MENA market, or other markets, regional markets, global markets. So really, in our case, we are definitely looking at developers, mobile apps developers in the region. But they're growing. There are not many, to be honest, in the region, but they're slowly growing. And the operator has an angle, the mobile developer has an angle, the users have their own issues. So,
what would you say, let's talk about the perspectives of each of those groups that you just mentioned. Let's start, as we did earlier, with the operators. Mm-hmm. What is their perspective on what you're trying to achieve and what the people want, which is more uses, more applications. What is the operator's perspective? You've been an operator, so.
Yeah. I think it depends honestly on the operator. I think like Barig said yesterday, there's an aspect of they want to have some control over what apps they run on the network, whether it's for you know, cultural reasons, security reasons, whatever reasons the operator has. But then there's also the operator from a technology perspective. They want to make sure that the apps are, have high quality software development in them. They can rely on the developer, that company or that team of developers. They can go into release 2.0, 2.5, 3.0, whatever, with high quality, testing the software in their labs. Sometimes, to be honest, the operators, when I was at AT&T, it took forever to you know, certify and verify software apps, because you're talking about a scaling thing. You're talking about millions of users. You want to make sure that when you roll out the mobile application, it's secure, it's stable. You don't want to have a lot of cases open because you're running 7/24. So there's that element from the operator side. I don't know about the regional operators. We talk to them, we deal with them. I never really worked with them. But you know, I'm familiar from talking to friends in Orascom or Salat or Zain, similar challenges like international operators.
Okay, now what are the implications of that for the developers? They have to meet the expectations of these operators.
Exactly. I mean, the developers have to, you know, it depends on the developers. With the gentleman mentioned, now with the Android as open source and, you know, with what Apple is doing, clearly there's thousands of mobile apps that are being created worldwide. There was a debate in the Bay Area a few months ago. I was on a panel, and we're talking about this. They actually had a vote in a group like almost 300 people. And they said, who's going to win this battle between, they mentioned Google Android, they mentioned Apple, and then they mentioned Microsoft and others, Nokia and Motorola and everybody else. And the reality is that the open source issue with Android is definitely influencing thousands of mobile developers. But you know, it has its challenges too, because it's open source and you have a community and all the challenges that come with it. With closed proprietary solutions like Microsoft or Symbian to some extent, or Apple also, because it's still a closed, somewhat proprietary solution, although they're trying to open up and loosen up their systems, each one has its pros and cons, and really time will tell who's going to, quote unquote, win the battle, you know.
Right. Fadi, you were, when Ray was talking a minute ago, you were going. So what was it that provoked that in you?
Many things. First, of course, before answering this, just to give you the market capitalization of the value of the apps. In 2009, there was 7 billion downloads of apps. And I'm not talking about everyone has Apple apps or no. 75 different stores reaching these 7 billion. In 2012, it's expected to be we're expecting to have 50 billion downloads. So the point about the operators, and of course Orascom Telecom, if they hear this, they will shoot me, but it's because I play the hat of the developers and of the app store, because I manage also the app store. So the point is in the business model. Today, the business models with the manufacturer app stores are very flexible. They're giving 80 and 70% to the developer. The operators are still on their old classic revenue share model, which is a 50-50 revenue share. So the business model in our region as well, and with the operator in specific, is not yet mature for the developers to really expand and really monetize under this 50 billion expected downloads. So this was my point, and of course I play a role of aggregation, so it hurts me when I say this, but this is where the market is going, so we have to cope with it. The other point that is very important is regarding, of course, the war. The war, I believe it will still be there. The intelligent stores, like the open stores like Android and Ovi, etc., Ovi kind of, but Apple, they closed on themselves. So it's very hard for the mobile operator to join into this game. And and they put themselves in this corner. Of course, they prove to be successful, but the other stores are working very closely with the mobile operator to offer billing and charging models with the mobile operator, which will bring a lot of revenues and traffic to these stores through the mobile operator. Because, for example, credit card, Apple, you have to buy by credit card. In our region, credit card, the penetration of credit card is not that high. So one of the most important things that the operator should offer is the billing. This is his advantage in staying there, integrated with the app stores that are independent, and that they need a nice or a good way of billing. So this is some of the aspects of between the war between the operators and
right. Okay, that's wonderful. Now, so there you are. You're at Orascom Telecom in Egypt, but your job has to do with the apps that are being presented there. So you really see both sides of the world. Now, we understand what you just said, but what would you like to see happen in each of these areas? So first of all, you're talking about billing software for the operators. Yes. Is it good enough, or do we need new billing software? Is billing software a key component of the ability to attract content?
They have the billing structure. It's very easy to implement it. I mean, the technology and the structure are there. What I would like to see is a model, a hybrid model, where there is, let's say, a shopping mall hosted by the operator, giving the billing, and this mall of shops caters for all the different handsets. Because the diversity of the handsets is the problem for any developers. Which platform would I go to? Which handset am I targeting? So having this as a shopping mall with the Android, which of course with the open models, not with the Apple, but with the Androids, with the Ovis, with the normal app store of the operator, having a shopping mall where there is billing offered to the developer or to the app provider or to the aggregator, clear billing, and a platform that offers easy, let's say, upload or interaction with this platform for the developer as well or the aggregator. This today is possible technologically, but it has to be implemented. Someone has to come, and it has to be, in my opinion, a shopping mall could be across region, but offering applications local for each market.
And this doesn't exist yet?
No, there isn't any global, let's say, mobile store or app store that is not independent by a manufacturer. There isn't any. There are some of them, for example, you have, but internationally, like GetJar, for example, this is an app store that caters for all handsets except the Apple, but doesn't have the billing of the operator. But in our region, there isn't. This model does not exist yet.
Right, interesting. Yeah, yeah.
A couple of comments on the issue, because I mean, on a more serious note, having worked on the executive board for a big operator like the one I was with, and having sat on the group marketing board as well for Vodafone for many years, it is actually more serious than that. Operators are under, and I'm sorry I'm speaking while great operators are sitting in the room, but allow me to do that. They are faced with huge challenge on the voice side. Competition is fierce in almost every single market in MENA over the past 2-3 years. Resources are extremely stretched. And most of the operators are talking about things exactly like the ones Fadi are talking about. Content farms, developing a lot of content. They understand the importance of content. They're also talking about app stores. Almost every operator in the region has some plan in one way, shape, or form about that. The thing is, there are no resources to do that. Let's be frank. This is not their core business. Operators have been doing a completely different job for years and years. To adapt and have the versatility to meet this challenge, I think is the issue. A lot of people would say that they're reaping the talent. I mean, they're not encouraging the talent, they're not encouraging the content provider, but there is no bandwidth to do that, frankly speaking. And the companies like Fadi's and like ours are the kind of companies, and of course with a lot of initiatives now in the Middle East, I think this is the bit that has to be defined in new business models between operators and partners to do that. In ALZWAD, what we're basically trying to do, I was sitting there and one day I woke up and said, it's not gonna happen there. I have to move out and do whatever I wanna do from the outside. And guess what? It took us 18 months to develop a portal that has all the content, general statement, not all the content, but some content, some apps, some news, some services like m-commerce, all the m-commerce we were talking about, put in an order for food delivery, make a cinema booking, all this through the mobile. And all this, I think, is just a cookie cutter. So whoever operator we show this application to, he says, this is the kind of work I need to have. So why don't you come and do, I mean, we'll just implement yours. Now the challenge here would be, again, as Fadi mentioned, the billing, the business model, what kind of new relations will we have with the operators? And that's why I took the easy route. I said it's going to be completely free. So there is no billing, there is nothing. I will just launch and I'll get my money elsewhere.
Understood.
So I think it needs a lot of bold steps. I mean, I put basically all the money I had in this one and some of my friends' money as well. But I think we're starting to see a lot of positive signs. I've launched 8 weeks ago and we already have almost 100,000 customers.
Wow.
Last month, which was just half the amount, 50,000 customers delivered over 3 million page views. So we're very optimistic on every metric we have for, that we plan for. We're beating every metric and we're happy. So I mean, I think we can have many companies like ours, although I hope not in the very near future, but.
Yasin, Symbian, the software that goes in Nokia, view from Finland, share with us.
We're going towards, with Symbian, we're going towards providing the next software, basically the next smartphones for the masses, frankly. Symbian was developed in the beginning for devices that optimizes for energy, for power, for memory, etc. We're developing the platform to the next level where we improve in the user interface and reach the masses. In addition to that, we encourage also the increment of incubating ideas for business development for distribution apps. And I think here we really can challenge ourselves and also from all developers, because adding to what mentioned earlier, Symbian has become an open source platform. As such, as a platform that, let's say, suppliers, developers, can also add their creativity and capabilities and enablers into that platform. As such, we can build the new next generation of business models, if you will, in the platform itself that enables the possibility for application stores to flourish. And here I want to take a point that the application stores do not have to come from handset vendors, can also come from regional players, from operators, etc., if you have the proper business models that are a bit fair. A 50-50 business model is a bit skewed towards the operators, may not encourage developers, frankly, to generate. So I like the idea of a supermarket concept or a pyramid scheme that may work in our region, where I can actually share the apps to my colleagues and others, where it can actually penetrate much farther at a much lower cost and hopefully gets, if you will, a farther reach. These type of, the innovation is not just technology. We need to address the issue of business models. And that's definitely a determinant factor. So we are going for I think the Symbian, and I'm sure other platforms will follow through. Keep in mind that we cannot charge a phone twice a day. It's very important that we need to take care of these essentials, which is really power management, etc. But we'll see how that evolves.
So we're at this very interesting moment where there's all sorts of stuff that one can do, but the shopping machine for it is not yet fully decided. We were talking about a visit to Sudan earlier, and I'm reminded of this area in Khartoum where it's just an empty lot, and you can just buy anything there. It's just really a big mess. There's camels over here, and there's oranges over there, and there's no structure to it, and yet there's a lot of people in that empty lot who are making a lot of money every day. That's kind of what we're looking at, and that we don't have clarity of structure yet, but it's a great time to invest because you're going to be developing something, making some kind of connections, making some kind of retail happen through the network, and then as things develop later, you'll be able to make yourself part of something that's more structured. Now, I'm sorry, you're the last one. Somebody always has to be last, Adnan. But heading up a wireless research institute in Qatar, and yourself coming out of AT&T Wireless, Talk to us about this challenge, and you're really focused on the Gulf, so that's very relevant for this meeting. Talk about that.
Yeah, if you allow me, let me step back, I
Yeah.
think, collectively and look into or at the how did the ecosystem evolve over the last 15 years since I have been involved in it from day one. I think we went too far into talking about a few things here and there. I think there are three transformational events that happened over the last 15 years that influenced the mobile data and industry. First one, I think, the business model, how it evolved. Firstly, in the mid-1990 to the late 1990s, the concept was really about a walled garden approach, whereby carriers controlled what the consumers like you and I need to look at and what can we really access, what we can download. That significantly inhibited the adoption and the experience. Then a few years later, I think came the iMode service from NTT Docomo, and proved that by really doing the same thing but optimizing the business model by opening up APIs in terms of billing relationships, billing on behalf of others, they significantly impacted the adoption and opened up the third-party community to that. Then I think 2 years ago, there was a fundamental change that happened when Apple introduced the iPhone and the optimized application store. And that pretty much was the fundamental change that happened to increase the adoption of mobile data. There are, I think, the players in the value chain have changed over time. In the mid-1990s, in the early 2000s, the telecom operators were pretty much the place to promote, deliver, market mobile applications and services. Currently, the picture has changed completely. iPhone, Apple is in the business, Google is in the business. I can set up an app store myself and be in the business. So the challenges are not there. I think the challenge, number one, is do we have in the region the right content? Do we have the right applications that cater for our regional needs? If you look at the iPhone store, I mean, last count probably it was maybe around 90 or 100,000 applications. How many applications are really rich enough and really targeting the MENA region, the Arabic world? When I talk about that, I don't talk about really just putting an Arabic language on an English application. So this is a fundamental issue that collectively we need to address. And this is when...
Let's turn our attention to that.
Okay.
How many are there? I mean, we've heard a lot about Arabic content. We're going to be talking about it some more later.
I have to be frank with you, I don't have the stat, and this is another, I think, a challenge we have. We don't have enough research data that can shed light into some of these statistics. I mean, everybody knows that it is very small. Is it 100? Is it 1,000? But if I want to...
Why are there so few? However many there are, why?
A number of reasons. A number of reasons. First, we don't have enough focus on it, frankly speaking. We don't have enough developers to develop applications which they can monetize, they can take further.
Not enough focus. All anybody is talking about is how everybody in every village across the region is having a phone now, and you're saying there's not enough focus on development for that?
Everybody has a phone, but look at how many people are developing relevant applications in the region. The number has been growing steadily over the last few months. The picture is changing, but I think we are not doing enough in my view. We have to do more in order to avoid the problem we had in the content on the internet. Yeah. I mean, the same problem we can have in terms of content on the mobile net. Exactly. So I think the numbers are increasing. I think we have seen initiatives in UAE and Qatar by focusing on it ourselves as a national institution. I think we'd like to change that.
Fadi.
Yeah. I'm saying the reason also the return out of it is not yet big enough for...
Not enough money.
Yes, not enough money. That's the main issue.
Even though so many more people are getting the phone.
Yes, but there's also another thing. I mean, the handset penetration in terms of smartphones and the Apple and the Android still in our region is small. And this is honestly where the big money is in terms of applications. The Symbian is the dominator in our region, but it's still actually, the efforts are being done now by Ovi Store. They are in Egypt, for example, they are advertising like crazy to push people to go in, but still people feel more comfortable to go to their mobile operator portal to get the application of the Symbian, mainly. So there is not enough return to build on this.
No problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yasin.
Fundamentally, it's now we need to engage the developers. And here, who creates the applications is the developers. We're not very far behind. I think this whole mobile application revolution is fairly, I believe it's young. Nokia and Symbian's been trying to do that for several years. I think Apple and Android, definitely the competition bringing that up. I think we're just about to start that marathon. That's my opinion. So I think we're not very far behind. Now, how do we get the enablers in the region, work with the developers, create the inducive entrepreneurial environment to create the right applications? We're not talking about applications creation does not take a lot, by the way. Creating an application is an investment of a couple of $1,000s on the average. So it's not a huge investment today, especially with the tools that are being developed now are and readily available. And the tools, by the way, the barrier to entry to acquire the environment to develop applications is so low. It's free. So I think here is what we need to do. What we need to do, disseminate, basically do cross-pollination of knowledge between what we see globally. And I think we can take this to the next stage.
So, Yasin, you said you think we're really close. It's about to happen. What exactly is about to happen? What's going to change?
I think the enablers are very critical. The enablers are there. I mean, they're happening. We're talking about, for example, in Jordan, I believe Orange just launched the 3G. So to get real applications engagement, you really need to have you need to have a good network. In addition to that, I think, well, we have 3G, but luckily we do also have quite a lot of Wi-Fi and hotspots. We need to enable that ecosystem, the infrastructure to work well, both the operators and these hotspot providers, if you will, to create the right infrastructure where we can download and work with applications. The second bit is absolutely training these upcoming developers with the tools. And that is not, I don't think it's rocket science. I think it's attainable. I think we have the talent and capabilities in the community, the region to create great applications, is, I think.
Right. So, Kunal, I mean, we're hearing that the operator is one of the significant enablers. And of course, that's where we started. So let me ask you, as an engineering leader, there's this term in construction, backlog. Do you have a backlog of demand? Build me a 3G network, or new operators coming to you saying, we need to put Wi-Fi everywhere. Are you hearing this across the Middle East? Because you're the go-to guy for building this stuff.
Yes and no. And that's what I was going to say to you, is I think this whole panel is saying there is a huge amount of demand. There's just time for a change, I think. I think the operators need to just do more, and some are. I don't want to just say that no one is. Obviously, there's a few that are. And I think the users are ready for the change, and they're wanting to demand. And they made the point of the Google OS or and the Apple OS isn't here yet. I think as the networks become, the throughput increases on the network, and as those increase in capacity, those phones will show up here kind of on their own. And then that'll allow them to use more apps and increase the whole thing. And I think that might be kind of the constraint here. And it could be a variation of things. I mean, I don't want to make the example and compare it, but like AT&T, when they first got the cell phone, or not cell phone, iPhone, they were running on 1 T1 per cell site. And the overload of capacity when that phone came out shocked them so much that they had to switch to about 6 to 8 T1s per cell site. And I'm not sure if everyone's too aware of it, but I mean, it's a huge amount of capacity, and a lot of those now have gone to fiber. I mean, I'm not suggesting everyone goes that route because it's a different market, different budget, but clearly an increase in the infrastructure has to happen. Otherwise, it will limit everything across the board.
So when you sit down with a developer in this region now, Kunal, and you say to him, look, they're rolling out 4G on CDMA somewhere, and you're still 2G. Don't you want to go at least to 3G? I mean, are you hearing them say, no, it's still too soon?
It's a mix in the sense of, and I do understand their position. I do understand the capital restraints. I mean, it's very high to build out networks. It's a long term to amortize these costs and everything. So I do understand their position. I do sympathize with that. But I think when the demand's there like it is right now, it should kind of speak to that. It's not so much the model of let's build it and they will come. It's already there.
Right.
I think the like all the panelists were talking about, it's obviously the gentleman at the end mentioned the ecosystem is complex. I mean, there's no, I can wear many hats. I can be an entrepreneur one day, I'm an operator the next day, I'm a mobile device manufacturer the next day. The ecosystem is very complex. And I think if we just looked at one of the pieces of this ecosystem, the apps developers, at least in this region, right, in the MENA region we're familiar with, we've seen it firsthand where the developers are still maturing. I mean, they're up and coming, they're maturing. It relates to the topic we talked about yesterday, which are the entrepreneurs in the region. The mobile developers are entrepreneurs. You know, 5 people, 10 people, whatever. It's a startup. They're doing a mobile apps, and they want to sell their application, whether it's gaming, whether it's whatever the application is. They want to sell it, obviously, whether on the internet or they want to sell it on the mobile. But if when they want to sell it on the, for the operator, there are challenges for sure. The operator, there are unfortunately obstacles from the operators where they see the mobile apps and it takes forever to test them and they deploy them. Then they also, the operator will say to the mobile apps, they're afraid that the startup, let's say 3 to 5 developers, is going to disappear. But then related to that are the VC funding of these entrepreneurs, the startup who are the developers of these mobile apps. And we talked about it yesterday in one of the panels that, you know, they give them $100,000 or $500,000 and then they stop. Yeah. They stop short. Well, as we all know, the telecom operator cycle is, I don't know, a year, 2 years, whatever. It depends on their testing. So all these things, you know, the mobile apps development is connected to all these different factors as entrepreneurs, as VC funding, the timing of the testing, the apps itself. What is attractive to the users, to at least in this region, the Arab Islamic users. And then last part is really at the end of the day, the gentleman mentioned it. I don't know if it was Fadi or the other gentleman mentioned it. Is that, to be honest, the apps that are developed globally. Yesterday, somebody mentioned it. There's not enough Arabic content on the internet, let alone the mobile apps that are slowly growing. And we are all to be blamed for that, including myself. Why not? Why can't we write more Arabic on the mobile apps or on the internet, etc.? So it's not an easy thing to solve. At the same time, I think the region is evolving and the whole world is evolving with all the things that we're seeing with the Google Android and what's happening with Apple and all that.
Microphones. Let's go to the audience and get some questions. Go ahead, Adnan.
To the comment that it's $2,000 you can develop a mobile application. Maybe that's true, but I'm not sure how useful that mobile application will be. I mean, mobile application development process is not as simple as $2,000 question. I think you are talking about an idea, talking about development. Maybe development part of it is a $2,000 question. UI design, testing. So I think there's a significant misconception that $2,000 can create a mobile application.
So Adnan is saying, don't go thinking it's only going to cost $2,000. It's unlikely.
I want to add on this point is very important. Exactly. I mean, also the monetization. You're thinking of creating an application. It's very easy. The developers are there and everything. But then, how are you going to make money out of it? Are you going to give it for free? Are you going to sell it for a premium? Are you going to get ads to put these ads? On the ads funded also. Just I want to point that until today, the ads in the region are not enough to cover ad-funded apps. The last model is the freemium, where you give it for free and then you have an in-app billing or you upgrade for a premium, etc. These models, unless you know exactly how you want to go from the beginning, there's no point in developing an app and then you're not.
Right. Yeah, I'm glad you raised this. I mean, I think we've come a long way in this session already in helping you to really understand what it's all about. And this premium thing, this is a crucial piece of the puzzle. That's what you're talking about, right? So freemium is?
It's a hybrid between a free application and a premium application. So you can get it for free and then you are charged for an upgrade, a premium upgrade, or you're in charge inside the application for whatever you do.
Is that what's hot right now? Is that I mean, what's What's the most
it's a
popular
mix.
way?
It's a mix. It's a mix. In our region, we've seen very great applications like the one, for example, that Ziad is talking about. His application, for example, is for free at the moment. So it's given for free. It's a completely free model. A lot of very also nice application in Egypt that are for free until a good monetization model is clear to be able to monetize out of it.
Yeah.
That's why some of the very good developers, they go to Apple Store again, where we know a company in Egypt, they are doing 2 million downloads, $2 million, I don't know the exact numbers, but they did a very nice weather application, HD, and a very nice application to teach you how to develop on iPhone. And they put it on the App Store, and they competed with 100,000 other applications, but they hit a bullseye, and they're making good money.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
I think we also need to address that when I mentioned the cost of an application, there are different variations. It could go as low as I said, 2,000. I think we need to also keep in mind that the whole idea of mobile application, yes, there are games to entertain us. There's also that basically maybe give us all dimension of our social lives, etc. But we can also incorporate the mobile application definitely in our business process. And that's critical and important. I was thinking the point that in the old days when you come to a farmer comes to a field infested with some insects or what have you, to combat such or do that, it would take quite an expert to travel to come to the field. By that time, maybe things could happen. Now, with a simple click and a camera and a transfer, you can actually get a diagnostics and you can actually take action. So I think this is just a simple example of what we see, whether it's also in security and in all kind of transport.
I expect we'll have a question about
I think we'll
business,
be a lot in that space.
The business applicable app. Who has a microphone? Microphone number 1, right there. Stand up. Who are you?
Hello.
It'll start. Just start talking. They'll turn it on.
Hi, my name is Adi Salamin. I have a startup actually focused on developing BlackBerry applications. I find this panel very interesting because the biggest challenge that I'm facing is actually trying to monetize the applications we actually develop at the end of the day. The main challenge is me as a developer, I get 30% when I sell in the region. So I have zero incentive at the end of the day to actually create Arabic content. If I go to the app world or the app store, I end up making 70%. And actually, I'm already started doing that. Got featured, got best application of the week, but at least you get the potential of being exposed to the region and millions and millions of people to download your application as opposed to here in the region.
Right. So where do you get 70%?
From the international app stores, for example, the Apple Store or the App
where do
World
you get
for
30%?
BlackBerry. In the region here, if I wanted to try to sell
if you
to
go directly
to
one of the local carriers,
well, you can't go directly. You have to go through a content aggregator, which is another story. So they get another cut.
Okay.
So my question is, now, the other strategy is obviously to try, people are hungry here in the region for mobile applications. And the best example is I have already over 250,000 downloads for my applications. The Arabic application has even more demand and more usage and more loyal users. But I can't monetize that. Advertising is being controlled by a couple of people. It's very difficult to penetrate that market. So at the end of the day, you become discouraged to focus on anything in the region. So my question to Ziad is, how do you actually monetize that? The other question to Fadi is, you mentioned GetJar, which is very interesting. Actually, GetJar contacted me to list one of my applications over there. Zero monetization.
Yeah, it's a reverse billing.
It's paper download, paper promotion. Of course, but they're actually introducing billing very soon.
Yeah.
And they have, from the region, 150,000 visits per day, which shows you also the demand for that. Yes. And as far as talent, we have a lot of talent for mobile developers. I've been seeing that. I've been seeing that people are willing to do that, but at the end of the day, they're discouraged to directly hit the telecom operators.
What's the answer? Ziad.
The point actually I wanted to make to sum up my view on this matter is there are multiple stakeholders in this business or in this industry, as Mohammed from Microsoft mentioned earlier. The multiple stakeholders all have different vested interests. For the operator, the business case is very simple. For the operators, the more applications, the more data usage, the more data revenue, and we've seen, I mean, in Vodafone in a previous life with corporate accounts, how they behaved when the BlackBerry and the Mobile Connect cards were launched, unbelievable growth in data usage, and accordingly, data tariff is still less competitive than in most markets. In Egypt, starting to get some competition. But for the operator, the business case is very clear. The more the applications, the more the usage, the more the revenue. Now, what we're preaching in ALZWAD is that not every developer can go and talk to the operator. So my advice to young operators, come to us, come to Arpu, come to Maidan here in Jordan. These guys have the leverage, have the argument, have the business knowledge to negotiate with the operators in a very lengthy process, which is a 6 to 12 months. I agree with all the panelists and Scott. I mean, it's a 6 to 12 month process to negotiate. But I also am sympathetic with the operator because the operator cannot, they do not have the mechanism to look into every single application that is offered to them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So new players have to emerge with new business models. This is a fact.
Right.
There's another angle to this, which is really the, unfortunately, it's the cultural issue, which is psychological. I'm not a developer myself, but I deal with a lot of developers in the region and globally. And a lot of developers in the region, if they develop something here, like the gentleman was saying, it's not just on the mobile apps, even if it's software or hardware. If it's done here and you go to sell it to somebody, they'll say, oh, it's made in Egypt or Jordan or Lebanon, that means it's not good. If you sell it, if you go and open an office in Europe or the States and you design, let me just explain. You design it and you sell it, you promote it, and then there's market, and then there's quality and all that. And then you come back and sell it in the region. Like, oh, okay, it's made in US or Europe or whatever. So there is probably 20, 30% element. I'm not saying this is the whole story. For sure, there is a little bit of psyche in us, not invented here, the NIH syndrome, which is, that's where we have to develop. And things like Oasis 500 and what we're trying to do in DSO and Qatar and Jordan and Egypt and Lebanon, across the board, is that encourage the entrepreneurs that, yes, made in Saudi Arabia or Jordan or Egypt or whatever, any Arab country or the region, is fine. And there are a lot of highly talented people. A lot of us immigrated to US and Europe, and we've designed a lot of things. The brains here are the same brains in Silicon Valley. They haven't changed. The ecosystem here is not mature enough. Yeah. So what I'm saying
it's a really good point. It's a really good point. I think it's something for everyone to think about. Yeah. I think it's a little bit off topic. I think we could really get into it and talk about it a lot, but I want to leave it with Ray's comment on that and go to our next question. Who has a microphone? Go ahead.
From a talent perspective, we do have talent. From the App Store has 200,000 apps. Why? Because the people that purchase it in the state, they have credit cards and so forth. We don't. Now, how to solve that problem? Developers are looking to operators to go into their billing system and so forth. Now, so there is an issue that we need to solve. I have the following recommendation. My recommendation is twofold. If operators would approach people like Google for the Android, people like Symbian, if they want to work with operators, that operators will have pages that apps will be on there and operator will get a cut out of it. By doing that, Symbian encourages. Not everybody wants to go to the OV. People want to go to a store that is local. Apple have the store for Saudi Arabia as an example, but it's empty. It's barren. Why? Apple doesn't want to give the operator a cut, okay? And therefore, the number of developers that put on that because of the credit card issue is an issue. So here comes the regulator. The regulator could come and say, Apple, if you want to continue having that app store saying Egypt, saying Saudi, and so forth, find a solution. I'm just giving you ideas here. I'm not saying this is it. But my encouragement, you as an operator, you can easily go to an open system that allows you to have a store that is local with a billable solution. Yes?
Go, Fadi.
Okay. By doing that, you will
have all the microphones on. Fadi, reply.
Yeah, but I completely agree with you. The Android is doing this actually as we speak, and Ovi started to do this as well, to have the billing from the operator. Apple, their model is the value chain is closed on themselves. They will never change. And you can never enforce. If you try to enforce, they tell you, okay, don't buy my phone. And he knows that you cannot live without his phone. So that's a very brief, yeah.
Yes? If you tell Apple that you have a page called Egypt that has very minimal applications and so forth. Open it up for somebody
He wants to own the user. The problem is owning the user between the mobile operator and the manufacturer, especially Apple. He wants to own the value chain with the user. He wants him.
Give the developer a venue to develop and get revenue. Not everybody can sustain a freemium model.
Yes.
So to do that, we need to encourage a grassroots development application that a BlackBerry app developer, an Android Black developer develop. How? By giving them ability to monetize. And the only one available here is not a credit card, it is the telecom operator. Yes. So by God, it is in your hands.
Yeah, exactly. Don't you feel like you're in their offices and hearing them fight about it right here? Adnan?
I think we have talent. It's just, are we utilizing this talent, number one? But even though we have talent, I think we cannot get enough of a good talent. So we cannot become complacent, saying we have talent, we don't need to do more. So exactly because of that reason, we are launching ourselves an annual mobile application contest in order, across the Arab world, in order to identify, encourage this talent, and see how we can help them take their ideas, concepts, take them further, and a win-win situation. So I agree with you, talent exists, but I'm afraid that it's not utilized, it's not channeled properly, and a lot can be done to do this area.
I'm not a fan of task forces, but I like the idea here when you bring about all the stakeholders in one room and say, hey, here's your problem, solve it. And frankly, the solution is in line of what we just said. I think the operators need to realize they're creating a supermarket. The supermarket gets 5%, not 50, okay? Let's face the reality. The other issue is we got to make the publishing easier. I'm not with the rules that I will take 12 months to go, no. Publishing within 10 minutes, I'm on board, I'm already selling. Developers, we need to make things efficient, to make things faster. And you got to make that ecosystem work in an efficient way so things will work together.
We're going to take one last question. Waji, if you'd like to bring your panel together, we'll be moving to your panel real quickly. Who has the microphone? Right, over there, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Bashir and actually I'm from Tunisia. My question goes to Mr. Ziad. The apps you are offering, are they in-house development? Is your talents from the region itself or from outside the region? And my last question, do you have a business model already? If so, can you share it with us? Thank you.
Most of the development that we've done so far, and it's pretty complicated, I really hope you can visit our website. It's mealmobile.com to see how, and download the application through the website. It's got music player, it's got a video player, it's got games downloads and news. So there's the back end of all this, as well as the m-commerce part, which right now has no m-payment, but you can actually order, and it has Look, which is a full chatting engine with interfaces to most IMs. All this was designed in-house. I would say 60% was developed in-house. The other 40%, bits of it were done in Cairo, in Alex, in Amman, Jordan. So we have a variety of developers, all 100% from the region. The content also, same thing. Most of the content has been developed in the region. Very few international news and stuff like that is outsourced from international news providers, but all has been done in-house. And there is a lot of talent, and that's why when I say we're opening up our platform for any content developer, for any application developer, to just drop me an email and we'll take it from there, because we need more people who can talk to operators.
Good. Ziad, thank you very much. Please keep your seats. We're going right into the next session, which is about Arabic content, very closely related issue. Please join me in thanking Adnan, Ziad, Fadi, Yasin, Kunal, and Ray.